Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name's Leigh Fuge, and in this video today we're going to be taking a look at this mini head here from the guys at Hughes and Kettner. This is the Spirit of Vintage. Spirit of Vintage is one of 3 brand new mini heads from the SPIRIT Nano series. This is the lowest gain one. There's one called the Spirit of Rock and another called the Spirit of Metal. I did a first impressions video where I cover all 3 of them. That's going to be linked in the top corner of this video. Please go check that out if you want a brief overview of what all 3 of these heads do. But this one that I have in my hands right now that we're going to focus on is the lower gained version of the 3. So this is a 25 watt head. It's all analog, but you can also bump it up to 50 watts if you run it through a 4 ohm cabinet. The amp is very, very simple, but it sounds fantastic. It's got the Spirit tone generator in there from the bigger brother of this, the Spirit 200, or the Black Spirit 200 I should say, which is something that Hughes and Kettner designed, which brings that kind of dynamic response and feel of a real screaming valve amp, but packs it down into a small chip. And this is pretty tiny, so to get something this small that sounds like a huge amp is a pretty cool thing. This amp has a variety of purposes. You could gig with this, you could practice with it, or you could use it as a backup. Whatever you do, you're going to get a great sounding amp for this. It's not that expensive. It retails in the UK at around about £180, £185, and it's released on the 11th of November 2020. So if you're watching this video before that date, this is coming very, very soon. The layout is super simple. We've got 4 controls in the front, master volume, which is self-explanatory, sagging, which is the most interesting feature on this, I think, which is basically a control over the power amp's dynamics. So when the sag is set to 0, you get a real tight response from the power amp, and when it's all the way up, you get this natural kind of compression that you get from a cranked valve amp. That sort of feeling you get when the amp kind of feels like it's going to blow up. The sagging will bring that compression and sag into it. Single tone control, which controls the brightness or the darkness of the amp, and the gain control, which controls the gain. Guitar input, headphone out. The headphone output has got the Hughes and Kettner red box emulation in there, so it sounds just like a real cabinet. On the rear we've got a line out that you guys can use to connect this to your audio interface and load up your own cabinet IRs in your DAW. An auxiliary in for jamming with your favourite backing tracks. Speaker out. The on and off is handled by this little push button here. And there's a cool little dip switch here called AES. This is like an automatic power off, so if you forget to turn the amp off, it will automatically switch off after 90 minutes, as long as this is engaged. So I'm going to plug this thing in now. We're going to go through some tones and see what it can do. This little head is plugged into the cool amplification 1x12 that you see behind me there. This is loaded with a Celestion creamback speaker, and it's mic'd up with a Lewitt Audio LCT 440 condenser microphone. All the tones you're hearing will come straight from the head, except for the reverb, which is coming from the TC Electronics Hall of Fame Mini. The amp doesn't actually have an effects loop or a built-in reverb, so I've just got a TC Mini running into the front end of this just for a little bit of ambient space. The guitar I'm going to be using is my Shergold Masquerader SM03. This is kind of like a Strat Telly hybrid. We've got some vintage single coils in the neck and middle, and like a hot overwhelmed Telly pickup in the bridge. So I'm going to start off just by setting the sag, the tone, and the gain to 12 o'clock. I like to just start with a neutral palette when I first hear an amplifier. So that's a great basic tone to start with. I'm going to try and dial in a slightly cleaner tone now. So I'm going to bring the gain down. One thing to note with these controls is that the master volume, the sag, and the gain control all interact with each other. So when one is pushed, it increases the overall volume of the amplifier. So if I'm cutting the gain, I need to bring the volume up a little bit. I'm also going to boost the sag, which will make it slightly louder as well. does get very, very clean. Now I'm going to push the tone a little bit more now, just to see if we can get a little bit more brightness, add a little bit more of that sag, just to get a bit more tube compression there. Now if you want to get that super tight, you can bring the sag all the way down and push the volume up to compensate for that. So that's great for funk. It's actually super tight. It's probably not designed as a funk amp, but you could definitely do that. So I'm going to go back to like a medium gain sound now. So let's push the gain up to about halfway, get the sag going about 3/4 of the way there, just get a bit of breakup. Straight away there we're getting into some nice bluesy breakup. If we push the sag a little bit more, that will actually add to the breakup slightly. You get this kind of drive that almost verges on fuzz. Let's bring the sag back down a little bit just to tighten it back up a little bit more, but bring the gain up to about 3/4 of the way. So it's really reactive to how you play. I rolled the volume back a little bit towards the end there just to kind of clean it up a touch. Let's see what it sounds like with the gain up on full. And now that we're up at full gain, I'm going to use the bridge pickup on this guitar because it's sort of like an overwhelmed telly sound. So even on full gain, it's not super overpowering, it's pretty tame, it's really great for bluesy stuff. So I would probably set the gain myself about there, maybe just above halfway, and I'd probably roll the tone back a touch as well. So there you go guys, there is an in-depth look at the Spirit of Vintage from the Hughes and Kettner Spirit Nano series. If you want to hear more about the other two amps in this range, please check out the individual videos for those as well. And also if you just want a quick overview, please check out my first impressions video where I just briefly talk about all three of the amps in the series. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know down below in the comments what you thought of the Spirit of Vintage. If you've watched all three of the amp videos so far, what is your favorite one? Like I said, these amps are available from the 11th of November in the UK. They're going to retail at around about the £180–185 mark in the UK. Please check with your local stockists for whatever their prices are, but in the UK that's about the price point. I think this is a great little pedalboard amp. It's great as a clean platform if you just want to show up to a gig with a light amp, plug your overdrive pedals in the front and go. You can do 25 watts into 8 ohm and 50 watts into 4 ohm, so it's plenty of plenty of punch there to keep up with even a pretty loud drummer. It's also great if you just want a clean amp that you could use for a backup, so whatever your main amp is, if you're worried about that blowing up in the middle of a tour or the middle of a show, you could keep one of these in your gig bag, and there it is, you've got a backup amp straight away. So please check these out. They're great amps, they feel great, they sound great. I'm looking forward to getting a lot more use out of the Spirit of Vintage. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like I said, please let me know in the comments what you thought. And if you did enjoy, please hit that like button and please hit that subscribe button. Your subscriptions really help this channel to keep on growing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.